Steve, I want to repaint this picture here of me.
In the van. Was it a van?
It was a van.
So yeah, the druggy buggy.
The druggy buggy. I used to call it the loser cruiser. Yeah,
the boozer cruiser.
the boozer cruiser. So the rehab van. It's me and 4 other guys in the rehab and the counselor. We go to the supermarket. So now we're listening to you on the Stern Show, which is always great radio. We get to the supermarket. We're in the parking lot. We can't stop listening. And you do this stunt. So just picture like 4 guys on a rehab trip listening to you.
Right.
You on Howard. Explain what you did that day.
Well, at that point, at that point I was sober for slightly over 2.5 years.
Right.
And yeah, I showed up with like a torch. It was like a piece of wood with like a cloth wrapped around the top. Like I had I had a bottle of kerosene, I think,
right.
and a bottle of rubbing alcohol, and like, you know, there's just a huge torch sticking out of the backpack. Like, show up, you know, and Gary's like, I had everybody under strict orders. Do not tell them what I'm planning to do.
Right.
Show up.
Because you know what's great about your visits to Howard is you explaining what you're going to do to him, and then hearing it the very first time, and he goes, "Please don't do that."
Right. So I told him, I said, what was it? I said, I'm gonna spray an obscene amount of hairspray all over my head. I'm gonna fill my mouth with rubbing alcohol. I'm gonna, you know, like this torch, I'm gonna blow a fireball out of my mouth, like off of this torch, simultaneously while I do a front flip. Which is the fire will rise up in the air, and as I'm upside down flipping, my head will pass through the fireball, igniting my whole head on fire, which I just sprayed with flammable hairspray. And then I'll crash flat on my back in a bonfire with my head on fire, and then I'm gonna struggle to my feet with my head on fire, and this guy behind me is gonna use my head as a fire-breathing torch when he spits a mouthful of flammable liquid at my head.
As if that's not enough. You're like, I got another guy involved. And then there was a guy, another friend, who was going to put you out.
No, that was the paranoid Stern staff. Like, I would never bring a fire extinguisher.
Ruin it with.
I would never bring a fire extinguisher to a party like that.
So just about you set that up, and Howard's begging you,
He's
please
just
don't
begging,
do that.
Don't do it. This is crazy. Don't do it.
You do it, and then.
And I told him, I said, you know, and it was important to me because this was like, you know, I said, Howard, like I haven't been here in 2.5 years, you know, like, and it's widely known that I've been learning how to live clean and sober.
That's right.
And I have heard that you called me.
Yeah, he called you out when you were Dancing with the Stars.
On the Dancing with the Stars. I don't know if you can. You called me a
P word.
P word.
It's amazing we can't say that.
You called me a P word, and I said, Howard, you're not going to do that. You're not going to call me the P word, and then telling me that I can't do this because, like, and I just had so much to prove that I still had that in me, that I hadn't turned into like some soft like wussy, you know. And it was important for me to do that.
That's what's great about you. You could tell it was very important.
Yeah, I said I have to prove that I still have this in me.
So the great thing is you do exactly what you said you were going to do.
Oh,
it happens perfect.
To the T, yeah.
And then what made it the greatest radio ever is you just hear Howard go, put him out, put him out, put him out, put him out. like you hear rumbling. So, like, if you could see like a 20-foot shot of the van, we're in a parking lot down in Florida in a druggy buggy van, and we're laughing so hard it was probably like going back and forth. And if cops approached the van, they would have seen 4 guys in rehab and a counselor.
Sure.
So,
were you in Del Rey?
I was in a place called Ambrosia, which is in the Palm Beaches.
All right.
Palm Beaches,
Same
yeah.
deal.
Not far from Del Rey.
Same
Not far from Del Rey. So now, also, I know Dr. Drew helped you out quite a bit, right? I tell you what, I never...
Sorry to interrupt, but Dr. Drew and I have been friends for many years before I got sober. And, like, for example... To the Jackass #2, the second Jackass film, to that premiere, I rolled up to the red carpet in a stretch limo with my dad, my sister, my 4-year-old niece, Ron Jeremy, and Dr. Drew.
That's rock and roll, man.
Yeah, and I'm loaded as can be. I get out of this stretch limo with this cast of characters, stumble onto the red carpet, and right in front of my 4-year-old niece, just pull out my unit and begin to urinate all over the red carpet.
Hey, listen, man, you're living the rock and roll life.
My dad was like, my dad's like, they just horrified me. And I looked at him, I said, Dad, it's my carpet, and I'll pee on it if I want.
Hey, listen, I got to say, Dr. Drew wanted me to do celebrity rehab for years, and I didn't want to do it.
He asked me to do it.
And at first I said, you just want me to be on TV, and I said some things I shouldn't have said because I was messed up. But that guy proved to be such a great person. Even after there was no way he could make money off my situation, the 2 years I was out of commission, it took me 2 years to get off heroin. I mean, literally get it out of my system. He called me once a month. He had no dog in the race. He just was really concerned.
And you weren't doing Suboxone or methadone?
Yeah, I gotten off I stopped Suboxone, no methadone, everything. Just clean.
Oh, dude, power to you, man. Because that stuff's harder to beat.
Yeah, no, you're right. The method, it just creates a whole new cycle of crap.
Right.
And Dr. Drew's one of those guys, he's hardcore. He goes, no, that's not recovery. You're still using.
Right.
And he called me once a month at home to make sure I was okay. And he talked me through some bad times. And I know he helped you out, too. Good guy, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. I just did a podcast with him.
Yeah.
He's got a wildly successful podcast.
Everything that guy does. I mean, that guy's he's a mega star.
I got an email from him where he was asking me to be on the first season of Celebrity Rehab, and I remember I was pretty slick about it. I emailed him back. I wrote, and just loaded as can be, just and I was like, Drew, I have way too much respect for the recovery process to make a mockery of it on television. And
gurgle.
I don't even know him.
Well, listen, man, I got to say, like, you guys, the Jackass guys, I loved you guys so much. I never laughed so hard in my life in a movie theater than at your movies, the first one in particular. Again, you running into that ceiling fan.
Yeah,
I threw up.
If I do say so.
And I think you guys are like the Stones in the 60s, man. Like, you're the real bad boys. And I love Johnny Knoxville. I love Bam. All you guys are just really great. And unfortunately, that's why when I heard Ryan Dunn die,
yeah,
that was brutal. I really felt awful. And again, it had to do with booze. And, it was a matter of time.
You would never have. You would just,
Was that hard for you? I mean,
well, of course, man.
Yeah.
Of course it was, man. Like,
because you were sober by that time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I had over 3 years at that point.
So, I mean, did you ever extend, did you see he was a guy maybe in trouble, or was it just...
It wasn't like that,
It wasn't
man.
like that.
I mean, sure, he drank a lot, but, there was never one conversation where it was like, we got to step in, Ryan's off the rail.
Right.
He just wasn't...
It was a bad moment.
He would probably drink every day, but he was never like... Whoa, guess what he did this time?
He got trouble.
Yeah, it was never like he was in trouble. I mean, there's people say stuff about that, like Bam, all the time for years,
Right.
If it's Bam, it's like, oh, dude, he's off the rails, he's out of control, we got to do something.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with me for years.
Right.
Those conversations just didn't happen about Dunn, so nobody saw that coming, man.
It's a shame. But so anything else? So Jackass movies coming up? Anything you could talk about?
There's a film that's a spinoff that it's not a Jackass film, but it will, I believe, be called Jackass Presents something or other. So they're gonna kind of maybe whore the name down the river a little bit.
Well, what are you gonna do, man?
Right.
You're a brand. You're a brand.
Well, yeah, it'd be cool if we were in it.
Right. So you're doing we stand up. You're at Caroline's.
I'm at Caroline's this weekend. I've been traveling fairly extensively. Like I told you during the break, during the year of 2011, my comedy tour brought me to 15 countries.
Dude, as a comic who's been doing this for 20 years, that's unbelievable. 15 countries.
15 countries in 1 year.
And I need a rest.
Right.
15 countries.
Oh, dude, it was insane. And I'll just finish up the thing from when I got into stand-up. It was... I got Dan Cooks helping me out, night after night. We're in there. We're both doing our spots, and then he's giving me notes. And like I said, that was like 1 month before Jackass 3D came out in theaters.
Right.
The specific day that you're talking about is on the radio.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm in the comedy club like every night, not even thinking in my wildest dreams that I would ever really get paid more than, you know, like whatever they give me. Like, you know, I was just like, man, I want to do it. So now, like we said, you know, I'm doing, I get on that Howard Stern interview that you're listening to in the Druggie Buddy. I tell Howard, I go, dude, I've been doing stand up. I've been doing stand up. I'm doing it like every night, and it's going good. I want to get a gig you know,
in the city
tonight.
You said, can you call a club for me, right?
Right. So I wound up going on stage at the Comedy Cellar that night.
At the Cellar. Legendary place, dude. That's a place.
And it was so funny, dude, because I forget who it was, but I'm sitting there at the comics table at the Cellar.
Upstairs.
There's this guy, and I don't even know who he was, but he says, so how long have you been doing stand-up? I'm like, yeah, a few weeks. He's like looking at me like I'm just, like, he's just looking at me like he wants me to die. If he could give me cancer with his eyes, he trying to.
Dude, there is no more competitive jerk-off mode that other comics can get in, especially at that place.
All right. He's like, few weeks, huh? He goes, I've been doing stand-up 30 years. Professional. He goes, I've been doing stand-up 30 years, and that's professionally. And you're here after 3 weeks, you know? And I was like, yeah. And it was great, you know? Like, it really went well that night, and I was psyched. Now, because I said that on Howard Stern, because I had this #1 movie in theaters,
right.
I didn't even have an agent at the time. You know, I had fired my agent before that.
Yeah.
I got my lawyer calling me. He was like, yeah, I don't know what to do. I got Caroline's calling. I got this guy. Their phone's ringing. They want you to headline over here.
And Caroline's is the biggest headlining club in the country.
I know. I had like 15 minutes of material at the time. You know. Right. And so I go into this meeting with to get an agent. Right. I go meet over at ICM. I walk in and Chris Smith comes into this boardroom. He goes, hey, you know, I know we don't represent you, like, you know, I know we don't, but I made a few very low-key phone calls, you know, and I just kind of reached out to some people I know and just said, like, hey, you know, like, if hypothetically I were to be representing Steve-O, like, what could we do? And he goes, plop, right? He plops this folder down on the boardroom table, and he's like, yeah, right in there. He's like, you know, like, I'm not going to, it would be douchey to say a number, but I'll just say it was a full-scale headline tour.
I'm sure I can imagine, yeah.
It was a tour.
I mean, you're a name, you know? Right. You're a funny guy. You want to be a funny guy.
And I had realistically, I had 20 solid minutes of it. I had 20 good minutes, you know, and I had it going pretty good. And I was like, okay, you know, I see that folder, and I'm like, okay, So I'm gonna do a set of comedy. I'm gonna do a set of stunts, and then and I got it, you know. And I just kind of and off I went. Off I went. Now it's like it's 2.5 years later, and it's like it's still kind of a tough sell to be like, yeah, Steve-O's doing stand-up now. But like I was saying during the break, man, I've had this life that is really very, very rich at lending
Interesting,
itself.
to say the least.
You know, like just in the most outrageous groupie stories alone, which people really want to hear.
Absolutely.
Like I've got some solid material.
Dude, I've been in the business 20 years. I want to hear them.
Yeah.
But dude, I got to tell you, Steve, man, I mean, look, me and you, a lot of people wrote the both of us off. Right. We made it through. We're sitting here. And I am so happy for you, and I love you, and continued success, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Come back.
Yeah, for sure, man.
And everybody, plug a gig, come back anytime.
Yeah, everybody, like on Twitter, I'm at Steve-O on Twitter, and my website is steveo.com.
Right.
Same thing on Facebook, whatever. And if you're in the New York area, come by. Like my tour dates are on my website. And anytime anybody comes to see my show, at the end of each show, without fail, I'll promise to go nowhere and do nothing until I've taken a photo with every single person in the audience that wants one.
And this guy will do it, believe me.
Oh, I do. That's why it took me so long to get here tonight. And, you know, if anybody doesn't feel like waiting in line, buy one of my books and shirts, come right up to the front.
And the book, we should mention, what's the name of the book? Professional
Idiot, a memoir. And check out my book, Professional Idiot, on Amazon, has an average customer rating like aggregate average 5 out of 5 star book.
I'm getting it.
I'm pretty psyched on that.
Steve, much more success. And anything
you're,
you need, let me know.
Yeah, where's your second book? That's
my second book's coming out in the late summer, early fall. It's called Crash and Burn.
all right.
My second book's coming out. Yeah, so look for that one.
Too Fat to Fish was special.
Yeah, it was. It was
Really
right up
special.
there, man.
It'll be good to read a book that has some actual recovery in it.
Yeah, no, this one has a happier ending. The great Steve-O, man.
Hey,
Check
man,
him out
I
when
love
you
you
can.
so much.
I love
Thank you
too,
for having
Steve.
me,
Thanks,
man.
buddy.
Rad.
We'll be back with more of the Artie Lange Show.